Your daily fix of women's mixed martial arts from the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. Be in the loop, cause Golden State Media Concepts got you covered. Get your fix on women's MMA. We've got you covered on Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Arnel De Leon, and hopefully you are doing well for yourself. You, your friends, your family, whether you live in the States or internationally, I hope you're doing quite well for yourself during a time of major uncertainty in the year of 2020. But things are getting a wee bit better here. At the very least in the States, things are getting a little more stabilized. Some businesses are closing, reclosing, but some businesses are also opening, reopening. So in the States here, things are starting to get a wee bit stabilized. Schools are getting back to normal again, which is a good thing to see. Though there's already a report going on that students who don't wear face masks are already being suspended. Very iffy on that. But heck, you know what? America's getting a little bit stabilized. The sports world is getting a little bit more stabilized right now, actually. The National Basketball Association, their bubble games have been going pretty well. So far, there's only been one incident, and that incident has been cleared up. No COVID cases happening. People are being tested. So the sports world, in the general sense, has been getting better. And this brings me to talking about Juliana Stolienko and Yana Kitskaya coming up last Saturday's UFC events. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Yana Kitskaya versus Julia Stolienko. So, I didn't like this fight. I didn't really like it. And the reason why I didn't like it is because after seeing Stolienko's last performance, to which she had an awesome, amazing fight in Invicta, this fight, she fought against Kunitskaya, and I'm not going to peg down Kunitskaya for fighting how she should fight. So, Yana Kunitskaya defeated Julia Stolienko after 3 rounds of action via unanimous decision. I'll give you the stats here. So, Yana Kunitskaya, she landed 82% of her total strikes, 209 out of 254, 43 of 57 significant strikes, and 1 of 2 takedowns, of 1 takedown coming in the later rounds. And then Julia Stolienko landed 60% of her shots, only 30 of 50 total strikes, 6 of 26, significant, 23%. And she attempted 1 takedown, didn't go well for her. Pretty much how this fight went off was the bell rang, 2 fighters meet. Yana Kunitskaya was using some of her reach advantage, and then she'd go in for the clinch against Stolienko, and to slowly wear her down the cage. You know that thing that people always keep saying that turns them off from watching mixed martial arts? It's like, oh man, they're not really fighting, they're just hugging. Now, obviously, Yana Kunitskaya, she isn't just hugging Julia Stolienko. She's applying a whole lot of pressure and tiring and putting all her weight and all her body on Stolienko, which led to Stolienko being gassed out pretty much by the end of the second round, which then transitioned really well for her in the third round, to which Stolienko just didn't do anything at all in the third. Okay, so Yana Kunitskaya, she fought the fight perfectly. She had the perfect game plan strategy. Do not turn this fight into a scrap boxing match, because she would lose. Don't commit fully on the ground and pound or mat wrestling with Stolienko, because Stolienko is really good defending herself on her back position. So how do you defeat Stolienko? You can't beat her by mat grappling her. You can't really beat her with striking without really risking the huge possibility of you yourself losing. So what does Yana Kunitskaya do? Well, instead, she clinches with Stolienko for all 3 rounds of action. You guys remember Jorge Masvidal against Kamaru Usman, how that fight happened, right? Pretty much, think of the second round of the Masvidal-Kamaru Usman fight, in that Masvidal was pretty much kind of spent in defending the takedown, and Kamaru Usman just pinned Masvidal to the cage. Pinned him down, stomping on his feet, doing some clinch work. pressing all the action, pressing all the weight on his opponents. That's what happened here. Yana Kunitskaya, she pressured all her weight. She put everything down to the clinch. Did some dirty boxing. Little to no boxing at all. Little to no, outside or middle pocket boxing. Little to no jabs. The only time there were actually any strikes going on was when Kunitskaya is pushing forward the action, doing some jabs, and then going in for a clinch. So yeah, I'll be honest with you, it wasn't the most exciting fight in the world, but it was a good fight for Kunitskaya, considering that she's been gone since October of 2019. So about 10 months. She's been gone from action for about 10 months. So good for her for that. Julia Stolienko does her return back to the UFC, after her performance in Tough. So, she got a paycheck. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with making a paycheck right now, considering unemployment is at an all-time high. So, I'm happy for both women getting the opportunity to go make some money here. Good for them. I just wish the fight was a little more exciting, but who am I to judge? Who am I to say, hey, you're supposed to fight in exciting style, or a fight's supposed to be exciting? No, not really though. And so it is coming in from ESPN. Paige Van Zandt officially has signed with an organization then. So Paige Van Zandt here. This is coming in straight from Ariel Helwani. Former UFC fighter Paige Van Zandt joins Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships. Paige Van Zandt has found a new home. The former UFC fighter says she has signed a new 4-fight exclusive contract with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Her debut in BKFC still puzzles me that it's called the BKFC. But her current plan is for her to compete in November. So 3 months from now. She goes on to say, it was an amazing contract and amazing opportunity, Van Zandt told ESPN. I also feel like it's not a move backwards for me. It's a lateral move to a new opportunity, a new challenge, a brand new sport. I really have sparked a brand new passion for it, and especially for striking in general. And on top of that, I feel like I still have the stigma in MMA that I'm just a pretty face. And what a way to prove to people that that's not the way I see myself at all. This is a sport where people probably have the highest rate of getting cut open, and having long-term scars is definitely something that I'm not even worried about for me. It's just a love competition, and I'm really excited to go out there and show off in such an amazing sport. The totality of this deal is worth over $1 million with incentives attached. It represents a significant raise to what she was making in the UFC. So she's making $1 million, and she's making over $1 million. That's not including the incentives for fights. Make an educated guess. She's making about $275,000, $300,000 per fight, not including incentives. So if she were to have first round knockouts or have really good or an impressive knockout victory, you could give her potentially an extra $40,000, $50,000 win bonus. So let's say if she was being paid $300,000 per fight just to show, and then she would get an extra $50,000 for her win bonus or knockout bonus. She could potentially be making $350,000 per fight. 350 times 4, she'd be making $1.4 million over her contract fighting for Bare Knuckle. Good for her. Over 4 fights makes $1.4 million. A lot of money. Now let's compare that to what Paige Van Zandt was making during her time in the UFC. So during her time in the UFC, she was definitely making 6 figures. I say 120. It was within the ballpark of between $120,000 to $150,000 per fight. So she essentially, she's getting double. She's being paid double the amount of money fighting for Bare Knuckle. And here's the thing. So Paige Van Zandt, she's 5-4 in her MMA career, but she's 8-5 in her pro record. No. She's 5-4 in the UFC, 8-5 in the grand scheme of her MMA record there. So her run in the UFC really was bad. Okay, I want to say it's bad. It's just underwhelming, and it's surprising considering how much money she's making. And I remember a post about this. Dan Cormier and Ariel Helwani, they're talking about what's next for Paige VanZant. And Ariel Helwani and Dan Cormier, they both admitted, they're like, alright, Paige VanZant, she's got a superstar quality about her. Superstar quality. I'm questioning, what about her? My sister talked about this, because she watches mixed martial arts also. She's like, hey, Gorby, I have a quick question for you. Why do people like Paige VanZant? Because she's not winning their fights. And I'm like, well, she's really pretty. And then my sister was like, I don't care if she's really pretty. Why is she the main event or co-main event, even though her record isn't all that impressive? And I looked at her, I'm like, yeah, that's how it is. And now, Paige VanZant, after going 5-4 in the UFC, is now going to make double the amount of money. She'll make double the amount of money. Not only that, she's doing this in bare knuckle championships, not MMA. She had an interview where she didn't want to rule out her career as an MMA fighter. She says, I don't know that I am done with MMA. I know momentarily I am. I still have a huge passion for MMA. And I just recently relocated to Florida to train with American Top Team. Obviously, they're one of the best MMA gyms in the world. Right now, my sole focus is boxing. But in a few years, I could go back to MMA. Or I could just be making so much doing this bare knuckle boxing that I don't do anything else. I talk with a lot of different organizations. I actually had no idea that I would have so many offers coming in. I knew I would get the big players in the game, like Bellator 1, but I actually had 5 or 6 huge, solid promotions that I had to decide on. For me at this moment in my career, bare knuckle championship fighting bare knuckle fighting championship was the one that fit best. I can guarantee you, WWE probably offered her a contract. She fits perfectly for like what they're kind of doing right now. Because Shayna Baszler, she's currently in the WWE right now, and her booking and with how they've been using Shayna Baszler in the past 8 months, not all that impressive. And I think so right now they're some other WWE performers right now are just inactive. So and they want to. We don't know the timetable for one. Ronda Rousey is supposed to make a comeback to professional wrestling, Pro Wrestling WWE, but we don't know the timetable on that. So, and also I heard like Renee Young was also like really open to and she talked about how like, oh man, Paige VanZant would be great for the WWE. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But it also makes the complete Paige VanZant, whoever her agent is, or if she's her own agent, did an awesome job managing Paige VanZant. 5-4 record going into free agency, is making double the amount of money. And she's doing it in an organization that will hide her weaknesses. Because one of the issues with Paige VanZant, even though she can pull the submission move, there's an obvious ceiling as to how good Paige VanZant is in the world of mixed martial arts. There's an obvious ceiling. Alright then? She can still fight. She can still be competitive. She can be competitive and go toe to toe with people that are ranked 12 to 15 or 10 to 15 in the flight division. She can compete. But there is no way I could see Paige VanZant getting into that top 10. I just couldn't. And it's because she was a really good wrestler. I mean, she was a really good boxer, and her grappling is decent. But if you're to say, okay, what's her weaknesses? It'll be like, okay, her grappling. And it was very evident in her fight against Amanda Ribas, to which the bell rang, Ribas shoot in for a double leg takedown, and then they got the victory in like less than a minute. And I think in that fight card, the stats say that Paige VanZant had like 3 total strikes landing in total. Like 3 of 6 or 3 of 7. Wasn't good. Wasn't really a good showing for Paige VanZant. And then we can go do it now. She's at Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships, where she doesn't have to worry about defending the takedown. Her training is focused primarily on boxing, which is what she's really good at, and it is her best skill. So congratulations for Paige VanZant. Congratulations. She is now making a whole lot of money. She can go back to, doing like Instagram modeling stuff or pursuing, pathways of careers towards other aspects, like acting, modeling, sponsorship deals. She doesn't have to be stuck or be locked in with the UFC and their deals. So congratulations for Paige VanZant for making a whole lot of money with, the record and with the skills that she has. And so you're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, coming back right after the short break here. See you soon.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info. Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back. So, Yana Kunitskaya, she defeated Julia Stoliarenko in a fight that was very clinch heavy. So it is coming right now that UFC Vegas 6 medical suspensions are out. Yana Kunitskaya faces a potential 6-month sit. Bantamweight contender Yana Kunitskaya will require medical clearance before returning to the octagon. Last Saturday at UFC Vegas 6, Kunitskaya used a clinch-heavy attack to defeat Julia Stoliarenko by unanimous decision on the main card. Despite the win, Kunitskaya will need to get clearance on her neck and right arm before returning. Yana Kunitskaya must have MRI of neck and right arm, must be cleared by orthopedic doctor, or no contest until February 5th, 2021. Minimum suspension until August 30, 2020. No contact until August 23, 2020. I'm still honestly pretty iffy about medical suspensions. I really am. Which is surprising to me, considering that Hannah Cyphers is gonna be fighting yet again. And I have no clue how she's somehow gotten past medical suspensions. I just don't get it. I really don't. And so UFC releases Beth Correia, a former bantamweight title challenger. Beth Correia has been released from the UFC. UFC officials confirmed the news to ESPN on Wednesday. Correia, who's 11-5-1, made her UFC debut back in 2013. She gained notoriety as she climbed the bantamweight rankings, eventually earning a title shot against Ronda Rousey back in 2015. At UFC 193, she lost to Ronda Rousey by KO, which is the first loss of her pro career. Correia holds an impressive record, impressive wins over Julie Kedzie, Jessamine Duke, Shayna Baszler, and Jessica Ai. She fought to a draw against Marion Reneau and suffered a loss against Ronda Rousey, Raquel Pennington, Holly Holm, Mariana Ledina, and most recently, Panikianzad. We wish Beth the best for her futures. This is coming in by Mark Raimondi via ESPN. Oh man, she gets released? Oh, sad. That's really upsetting, honestly. But you know what? I just talked about it. Paige VanZant was able to make a whole lot of money after her run in the UFC. So you know what? She might make a lot more money, potentially in the future. Now, she's not as marketable as Paige VanZant, but still, she could potentially make a lot more money working for another organization as opposed to just, the UFC. And we got our replacement fight coming up. Visa issues have forced Marna Moroz out of her scheduled fight with Montana De La Rosa. Montana De La Rosa, who is 11-5, will now face Brazil's Viviane Araújo. Huge challenge right there for De La Rosa. Dang. Since joining the UFC after TUF 26 in 2017, De La Rosa is 4-1 in the flyweight division. 3 of her last 4 wins have been submission finishes. Araújo was scheduled to face against Jet Maia at the beginning of the month. However, a positive COVID-19 test kept Viviane Araújo from competing. She was last action back at UFC 245, losing to Jessica Ai by decision in what was the first loss of her UFC career. So Araujo versus De La Rosa, that's going to be a very tough matchup for both fighters. Stylistically wise right now, those two match perfectly, in my opinion. I think both of them, in terms of like how they fight, they are perfect for one another. Who's going to win this fight? I always go for the safe pick all the time, De La Rosa here. But Viviane Araujo, she can definitely defeat De La Rosa. Don't even count your bets on that. I say right now it'd be like minus 110 plus 100. It'd be like minus 110 De La Rosa plus 100 on Viviane Araujo in terms of predictions. And so let's go towards Bellator. Bellator 243 results. Valerie Loretta stays undefeated, knocks out Tara Graf in a really, really hard to watch knockout, honestly. It was really dang vicious here. So Loretta improves to a 3-0 record while Graf moves to 1-2. So what happened here is that Graf went in for a short leg kick, and then it led to Loretta going in for a crazy right overhand, knocks down Graf, and then just goes for some vicious ground and pounds. Yikes. Really great performance there by Loretta. I'm happy for her. And if you haven't checked it out yet, I recommend you do. It's a very short, quick fight. And wow, it's a proper scrap fight. It really is. And then Julia Budd versus Jessie Miel added to Bellator 244. The former featherweight champion is returning to action. Former champ Julia Budd is set to face against rising contender Jessie Miel at the Bellator 244 event coming up on August 21 next week. In January at Bellator 238, Bud lost the featherweight championship to a debuting Chris Cyborg. The loss snapped an 11-fight win streak that stemmed back to 2012. Mila currently rides a 4-fight win streak. She last competed in October at Bellator 231, picking up a split decision win over former featherweight title challenger Tatiana Nogueira. Last Saturday at Brave CF 37, Sweden's Bianca Ant-Man impressed in her professional debut. In a 115-pound matchup, Ant-Man defeated Vera Nyankin with the head kick KO. And so I'm looking at the fight here. So, Ant-Man's held a 5-1 record as an amateur. 4 over 5 wins came by came by submission. Okay, so Ant-Man's performance here, it was a nice looking head kick. So she did 2 really good things here. Alright then. So, she looked really good on the feet, and she's able to go sprawl. Her wrestling and grappling defense, and she's able to utilize her length. And it was an impressive performance by Ant-Man. It's just, there are many occasions that in her form and how she fights and in her striking, it happens, I don't know what's up with a lot of MMA fighters who do this stuff. It's very strange. Whenever I look at boxers or even kickboxers, their stances and how they go and, I don't know, like their fighting posture and their fighting stance is just a lot more cleaner, a lot more crisp. I know this is her professional debut. She's still kind of new at it though, but still like, really perplexes me that when I look at the fighting stances of a lot of fighters in the UFC, a lot of them have like their arms just a wee bit down, and it seems like they're kind of baiting their opponents for a head kick. Now I understand, or like a head kick or a head punch or whatever, but I don't know. I just don't get why aren't there more fighters who try to replicate the postures more of boxers, and I understand why. It's because you kind of need your arms just a wee bit down, because if you put it a little bit too up and too high, it leads you open towards body kicks, leg kicks, and takedowns. But even then, here's the thing. Ant-Man's head kick on Vera Nyankin is one of the reasons why more fighters should try to replicate boxing or kickboxing stances when they get to the high professional levels in mixed martial arts. Because here's the thing, the reason why you put your arms down, just put your arms down a wee bit. You want to block the body shots. You want to be able to like react to the leg kicks. You want to be a lot more free flowing in your movement, because if your arms are a little bit down, you're a lot more, free flowing in your posture and how you move around. A lot less tight. And you get to defend takedown here. Which is understandable, but it's understandable as why you would want to do that. But even then, it really backfires on a whole lot of fighters. And if they're being pelted a lot by a series of several strikes, which happened in this entire fight. In this entire fight, both Ant-Man and Nyankin were just throwing out like these insane strikes, like just getting free hits on them. I'm seeing very little head movement. I'm seeing very little blocking going around here. I'm seeing very little parrying. And they're just absorbing these shots. They're absorbing these shots to the face with these like leg kicks that honestly aren't really doing that much damage, to be honest with you. These really weren't. And then it leads to a knockout kick. So, I would like so I don't know. It's like, I'm impressed by Ant-Man's performance there, but it would be really nice to see a lot more, you know, I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to explain because in mixed martial arts, the way how they fight and the way how their stances are and how they like their body posture and stuff, it's very different from boxing and kickboxing. I understand that. I'm saying that right now because this fight here between Ant-Man and Yonkin, it reminds me a whole lot of Daniel Cormier's weird stance whenever he boxes or whenever he fights people. Now, it's doing good for him. I mean, he wins his fights. But I don't get why some fighters here, they either extend both of their arms outward as if they're gonna go for a clinch, or they want to press for the action, doing some like dirty boxing, or you want to do like some clinch work. Like, why does it look like you're going for that, even though you're obviously not going to go for it, and you're leaving yourself open for just like, you know, Ant-Man's kick? It leaves you open for free shots. I don't get it. And here's another thing. When your arms are down and you're defending takedown, well, if you're the wrestler, if you're the grappler here, yes, I know Ant-Man has had submission victories, but that's coming from the bottom position, and also that's coming from knockdowns, not necessarily from grappling and wrestling. Why are you putting your arms down? Why are you trying to prep up and defend the takedown against somebody who isn't gonna go and shoot him for a takedown? They can shoot him for a takedown, but if you're the grappler if you're the grappler and you're fighting a striker, you like it if the other fighter tries to press forward the action and tries to grapple with you, because you know you cannot wrestle them. So why it's with the arms being down? Why? And so this coming in from Buddy Abarkam, the Bellator's Julia Budd feeling inspired after powerful experience at anti-racism rally. The former Bellator champion said, attended a protest with her husband, who is black, and was one of the best days of her life. And they got an image here of Bud. She is jacked. Oh my goodness. She's huge. After suffering her first loss since 2011, former Bellator heavyweight champion Julia Budd is looking to return back to her winning ways at Bellator 244 next weekend. In an interview with Steve Owan, Jewel went on to detail regarding a recent anti-racism rally she organized with her husband and stepson, both of whom are black. The rally took place in Sechelt on British Columbia's Sunshine Coast in June. Bud and her husband, Lance Gibson, both spoke at the event, which was attended by around 2,000 people. At the rally, Bud talked about how she remembered hearing racist slurs when growing up in the tiny town of Robert Creek. Much of the racism she heard was directed at Indigenous people who, today, in Canada, continue to face extreme amounts of racism and police violence. In June, two Indigenous people, Chantal Mora and Ronnie Levy, were killed by police by New Brunswick in separate incidents. Also in June, Ehal Chaudhry was killed by police in Ontario. In her speech, Bud compared the racism she has witnessed in Canada to what has happened in the past year in the United States, where George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Richard Brooks, and other black people have been killed by police officers. She goes on to say, I don't want to use the excuse anymore that racism is a little better than the United States. That is somehow a measurement of how good we're doing in our community or our country. In his speech, Gibson talked about the threats his son, Lance Gibson Jr., who is also an MMA fighter signed to Bellator, faces living as a black man in Canada. It could be security guard, it could be a lynch mob, it could be a police officer, and it could be a custom agent, he said. And you know how that story gets twisted? They pull him over, take him down a back road. We don't see my son again. That's why I worry about every time he leaves the house. Bud told the province that her experience at the rally would have a direct impact on her fighting career moving forward. It was really powerful. It was one of the best days of my life. It's been fueling my passion to get back in the cage. I fight for the people I love. Bud vs. Mealy is the co-main event at Bellator 244 next weekend. Underneath the light heavyweight title fight, we have Ryan Bader. Underneath that will be a light heavyweight title fight between Ryan Bader and Vadim Nemkov. In the prelims, we got Lance Gibson Jr. will take on Shane Krichkin. This is the first time he and Bud has ever fought on the same card. Bellator 244 will be happening on August 21st next weekend. This is actually very perplexing to read, honestly, because Canada's its own weird thing. I don't know. Canada is weird. I'm gonna go off on a little bit of a tangent here, actually, what Julie Budd is saying. But what Budd is saying about racism and what's happening in Canada, it reminded me a lot of, cause I watched like these like 2 Let's Players on YouTube. And someone like on the stream or on the chat brought up this information that Canada, despite being heralded or being seen by a lot of people who live in the States as very like anti-racist place, America has more diverse and more interracial like relationships and couples and newlyweds than there are in Canada. So like it's weird. So there's more crime for ethnic groups in America, and there's like a lot more tension happening for ethnic groups in America. But at the same time, there are also a lot more like marriages. There are a lot more couples. There are more parents in America than there are in Canada as it pertains to interracial couples. So I find that like very interesting here. That it's like Canada, this place where there's like very little to no racism, and then you hear Julia Budd here saying like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, it's a little bit better than America, but still, there's a lot of things going on in Canada as it pertains to its racism. And so I think I found a random stat that like 1% of Canada is comprised of black people. Like it's like the 2 most dominant ethnic groups there are white people and Asians, specifically Koreans. So it's like white people, Koreans, and then like 1% black people, and then everyone else. It's kind of like Northern California, if you've ever lived in Northern California, where there's a huge offset of ethnic groups. And it's very perplexing for me to like see someone like Julia Budd, continue to push forward that Canada isn't like the premier perfect place as it pertains towards, racial equality. And it's really good for Budd. She's getting the second win in her career, and I'm happy for her. So you're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA podcast. Come back right after the short break here.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And we are back. So this is coming in from BloodyElbow.com. Also, that it's not for social media and it's not for men. Bellator's Loretta responds to criticism over marketing. So Bellator prospect Valerie Loretta wants to make it clear that the way she markets herself on social media isn't an act to bring in male fans. Women MMA often have... Okay, so this is also being written here by Zane Simon, that women MMA often have a specific set of challenges when it comes to navigating the marketing side of their MMA careers. Rose Namajunas made an impact with many fans when she took even the simple move to shave off her long hair and rock a buzz cut, a style she's worn through the entirety of her time in the UFC. It's a fight, not a beauty pageant, she wrote on Instagram back in 2015, revealing her new look. And while some women in sports may see mixed martial arts as a place to firmly push back against gender norms and expectations, that's not necessarily the sentiment across the board. I'm not saying that I'm any more attractive than anybody else, so else don't get that twisted, Miesha Tate told Bloody Elbow back in 2017. But I do play more into my feminine side, and I am comfortable doing that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and there's also nothing wrong with being the other way around, being a tomboy. It's the kind of sentiment Tate's expressed that seems to resonate in Bellator prospect Valerie Loretta's recent comments concerning the way she markets herself on social media. A former ballerina, Loretta often posts videos of herself dancing and posing for the camera, but after receiving some criticism of her public image, Loretta wants to make it clear that what she's doing is just an honest expression of who she is. She says, I don't do anything for social media. Loretta told reporters at Bellator 243 Virtual Media, I do things for myself. For example, I am an extreme girly girl outside the cage. So the way I market myself, it's not for social media and it's not for men. That is the way I look. I've worked my whole life to have this body, to have this figure. I was a ballerina. I've been a martial artist. I think that's where people make a mistake. It's not for social media. I am the way that I look like, but I'm also a fighter. What does one thing have to do with the other? Just because I look different than any other martial artist doesn't make me any different. It's my identity. That is why Valerie Loretta is different. So some of the criticism of our public image has even come towards other women fighters. UFC bantamweight standout Macy Johnson quote tweeted one of Loretta's videos in a now deleted post, writing in, is this the message you want to continue to convey, or not only our future leaders, but to be disgusting, already misogynistic dudes out here? Are we here to fight and be role models, or are we here for male followers for stripteases? Hashtag bring WMMA back. Loretta responded to one fighters who take the issue of her post, saying it was just jealousy. So Loretta just defeated Tara Graf, so she's legit. Okay, so I do believe it is disingenuous for Macy Johnson to go say, hey, you're not, she's practically saying in her quote, in her comment here that, hey, Loretta, you're not a real women's mixed martial artist. Hashtag bring WMMA back. When Loretta just had a knockout victory, a really impressive victory. She's legit. She's a really tough woman. She's proven it in the octagon. It just, I don't know. I don't know. 2020 is weird right now. It really is. Now, do I believe she's doing it probably for social media? Look, here's the thing. I don't, if you're doing it for yourself, then there's no reason to post it out. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, here's the thing. I post images of myself. No, I don't post, no, I take pictures of myself a lot of time. My friends did it also. Like, I got, like my sister was formerly a model at one point. And so, we take pictures of ourselves, but we don't really post it online. Okay, no, my sister does post some stuff online though. But, here's the thing though. If you don't want to do anything for social media, don't post it online. If she's really proud, honestly, here's the thing. If she's really proud of herself and how she looks, then she should just admit, like, yeah, I'm posting it online on social media because I like the fact that there's like going to be like 20,000 people who are going to give me a like and are going to be comments, and it makes me feel good about myself. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong doing something that will make you feel validated or feel gratified. Like, we do that stuff every single day. Let's be perfectly honest then. A lot of people go on social media to feel some level of validation, and it can get wrong to an extent. But if you're like, you know what, I'm proud of how I look at me, people, then yeah, I don't really see that really being an issue. But for Chasey to be like, oh man, this is wrong, or this is bad. This isn't just also Loretta. I remember I talked about this just over a month ago about some other fighter, so some other women's fighter. So it's like one female fighter, she was at the gym, and she was wearing like really tight, like jogging pants, like really like tight tights, and then she was working out, and then she did like a dance video, because she also likes dancing also. She posted it on Instagram, and she went on this like Instagram/Twitter war beef that was going on between both sides. I detailed it out between like what both sides were saying. As of now, both sides have like deleted their stuff, but it's, I don't get it. I just don't get it. I really don't. No. It's not that I don't get it, because I have some friends who are mega like, okay, it's not right to like post like pictures of yourself on social media, but I have some friends who do that. I have some females who are in the spectrum of like Macy, like, hey, you shouldn't like post pictures of like your body out there, or you doing something like really sexy. And then I have some friends who are like, well, you know what? I enjoy doing that. It's fun. And also it's like, it's silly. I don't mind doing it at all. I got two different sides here. It's hard to know which side that's going on. But with my female friends, as long as you're not like browbeating each other, as long as you're not guilt tripping the other person about what Macy's doing right now with her hashtag bring WMMA back, like, it's just ridiculous. It really is ridiculous right now, because it's not just Macy, but there's been other female fighters that tag on and challenge other like female fighters about this stuff. Now, personally, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to, put yourself out there, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, however you want to present yourself, that's on you. I'm not going to police you. I'm not going to be your mom or your dad. These are grown adults here. I'm not going to be like, hey, don't do that. I'm not going to do it. Because if you want to do that, then fine for you. But I agree with Tate here in that there's nothing wrong being close to your feminine side, and there's nothing wrong being a tomboy. There really isn't. And also, it's also pretty disingenuous, honestly, to be like, if you're an attractive person, then like, the only people who like you are like misogynistic dudes. What the heck? I don't get it. I just really don't get where the logic comes from. I'm pretty sure there are some creepy dudes out there who go on Instagram and they see an attractive girl on Instagram and then they give it a like and like, OMG, whoa, look, she's hot. And then there's like there's some dudes out there. Okay, here's the honest to goodness truth about Instagram and likes and stuff. We don't really care that much about the posts. We really don't though. My uni was in San Francisco University, San Francisco area, and in there, everyone is on Instagram. I lived in California for pretty much 20 years of my life, so everybody I know is on Instagram, and when we see a post, we just press the heart button, and we just move on. Like, I can guarantee you right now, that the people who see Valerie Loreda's, like, post where she's dancing, like, we see it, and then we just hit like, and then we just move on. That's about it. And also, here's another thing. Since when was it ever a bad thing for like, because I'm Asian, alright? Do you know how many videos I see of like skinny Asian dudes? It's like super skinny like Asian dudes who dress as if like they're like BTS members. Or I got like these like Chinese Filipino friends who like to dress as if they're like a Japanese Korean boy band and they're doing all these dances and stuff and trying to look sexy. Like, it pops up on my feed all the time because I used to be part of a dance team. So I used to be a part of a hip-hop dance team and also like a ballet dance team also. And so I would see spectrums of all sides where I'd have members of my own dance team, whether it be male or whether it be female, go post up sexy videos of themselves dancing. And then I guess like from Macy's point of view, it's like, oh man, you're a role model. You're not supposed to look attractive looking. And I thought like being like attractive looking is like subjective. Because here's the thing, a lot of people, many people, if you just go on YouTube, whenever there's a Rose Namajunas video that comes out, and like you see like brief instances of her with long hair or her with like the buzz cuts, a lot of people will say the same thing. They'll say Rose Namajunas, she looks good looking whether she has the buzz cut or the long hair. It doesn't really matter all that much. The cool thing about Rose Namajunas is that like she's like down to earth, super simple, and she's a really awesome fighter. Like people love Rose Namajunas. Again, seriously, even though Paige Van Zandt is more of the traditional, like pretty Barbie girl, like I'm a super attractive like model who's also a MMA fighter at the same time, and then you have Rose Namajunas who's a tomboy, and I can guarantee you there's a lot more guys out there. Actually, no. Out of sheer interest, I'll go on Instagram. I'm on Instagram right now. Because Rose Namajunas and Paige Van Zandt are like the spectrum of both sides of like how how fighters want to be seen by certain groups of people. Paige Van Zandt, the super pretty, super traditional, hey everyone look at me, and there's Rose Namajunas. So let me look at Rose Namajunas here. So Paige Van Zandt has 2.7 million followers. Rose Namajunas has 1.5 million followers, so she has about 1.2 less. They both have the same amount of posts though. Alright then, so in terms of Instagram, they're about the same. Let me look on YouTube actually, because, it's hard to define how popular a person is via Instagram, because I have a friend who does YouTube videos. His, like, YouTube subscriber count is like 2,000, and he averages like 200, 300 views, but his Instagram count is like 40,000. So, it's not an accurate depiction of how popular you actually are. It really isn't. So, I type up Paige Van Zandt on YouTube because more people are just generally more accessible on YouTube. And I'm looking at Paige Van Zandt's like recent videos here. She had like 6 million views, 100,000 views, 45,000 views, 3.6 million views. Alright then. So that, the ratio of Rose Namajunas views, okay, she got some good views. Alright. Let's look at Rose. So here's the weird part about it. Rose is a lot more consistent in getting higher views on YouTube. Like, I type in Rose Namajunas right now on YouTube, and I'm seeing a consistent string of 2 million, 3 million, 1.8 million, 1.4 million, 1.6 million, like 300,000, 78,000, 1 million, 1 million, 1 million, 1.1 million. Okay, and then we have Paige Van Zandt, who I think her single video, 6.2, she goes from like 6.2 million to 3.6 million to 45,000 to 183,000 to 90,000 to 80,000. So you can see it right there, actually, that if you just go up on YouTube, that like, there are a lot more people who are more dedicated and more focused on watching Rose Namajunas stuff, significantly a lot more, while Paige Van Zandt just has a higher ceiling of getting a higher view counts. So Rose is gonna have like 10 videos that has like 1.5 million views, while Paige Van Zandt will have 2 videos that are gonna go over 1 million, but they're like 6 million. Like, it's, yeah. So the spectrum to which male fans, I'm speaking from a male fan's perspective, the spectrum of the appeal of these female MMA fighters is broad. It's really broad. We can have the tomboy fighter in Rose. We can have the Barbie girl fighter in Paige Van Zandt. We can have the Latina hot fighter in Valerie Loretta. It's fine. It's called diversity. It's called diversity. I like that. One of the interesting fun parts about mixed martial arts is the fact that there's so many different characters, so many different personalities, so many different narratives that you enjoy that. If every fighter, whether it be male or female, if every fighter looked the exact same, male or female, I'm going to be pretty honest with you, that MMA would be really boring. If every fighter looked like Rose Namajunas and fought like Rose Namajunas, then yeah, it'll be fun for a while, but it'll get pretty boring. I want diversity. I want the hot fighters. I want the tomboy fighters. I want the Barbie girl fighters. I don't mind the Latina fighters who are also good at ballerina. I don't mind the fighters who like doing hip hop dancing. I don't mind somebody who's jacked and looks like a bodybuilder like Julia Budd, who's very frightening and scary as all heck. You got like very intimidating fighters like Valentina Shevchenko. You got no nonsense fighters like Amanda Nunes. You got the glitz and glamour Hollywood fighters like Ronda Rousey. Diversity. I'm all for diversity. So if you are a woman and you want to go post an image of yourself out there because you just enjoy doing that, like you enjoy it, nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong doing that as long as your heart is in the right place. So once again, you're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, coming back right after a short break here. See you soon.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back. So coming up this Saturday is UFC 2v2. And sadly, there are no women fighting in the main card. Sadly, we got Stipe Miocic against Daniel Cormier, Sean O'Malley against Marilyn Vera, JDS, Yuri Santos against Jadena Rosenstrike, Herbert Burns against Daniel Pineda, and John Dawson versus Merab Dvalishvili. So no women's fights coming up in the main card, but there's a really eye-opening prelim card here, prelim fight card coming up. And we have Felice Herrig against Verna Janarova, along with Ashley Yoder against Livia Renata Souza. Oh wow, Herrig versus Janarova, that's gonna be a really tough one. It'll be a tough performance for Janarova, but I'm telling you right now, if you've never watched a Virna Jandaroba fight, you'll be impressed. So there are two big fights coming up in the prelims. We got Jim Miller versus Vink Paschal, Felice Herrig against Virna Jandaroba. Those are two fights to definitely look out for the prelims. And those two fights can definitely be show stealers in a night full of show stealing fights there. And so last week I talked about hot takes. What are your hot takes of mixed martial arts? And it turns out there definitely are some people who give their own viewpoints and opinions on the situation of Valerie Loureda and what they believe on it. And there's some interesting takes here that I'm just going to read out here. So we got one person saying, Chason is saying that it is so wrong for thinking that Loureda fuels misogyny. Censoring other women under the banner of keeping misogynists at bay is misogynistic. Okay, that's such a real tongue twister there. Kind of is. You should never censor another person. No, what am I talking about? So, I am all for censoring if it is inappropriate, but if it's like, someone dancing, I don't find that inappropriate at all. I really don't. Someone says, finally, it turns out there isn't a single thing women can say or do that fuels misogyny. We men are entirely capable of keeping that to ourselves. Yes. That is, I'm gonna be totally honest with you right now, dude, that if a dude sees like an attractive looking chick from a guy's perspective, we just see it, we just take it in, and we just move on. I said it, before the commercial break here. Me living in California, and me and my friends going on Instagram and stuff, if we see a post that we like, that has an attractive looking person, we may or may not give a like on it, and then we just move on. That's about it. We just move on with our lives and with our own respective girlfriends or wives and stuff. It's not really as big as a deal as people make it out to be. Honestly, for my Instagram, I legit like everyone for the most part. It's like, and I have some friends who I got some friends who try to be very attractive looking or try to be as sexy as they can on Instagram. And so, as a friend, I gotta just like it as a friend to show I'm being supportive for them. But that's really about it. Someone here says, someone says, to the incel section of the fan base, tomboys are too ugly to watch. The pretty ones are the only ones in the UFC because of their looks. You'd think after 7 years we get past this. Okay, so incels and simps. I'm just gonna throw the simps there because they're in the same line as incels here. If you guys don't know, incels are these misogynistic dudes who desperately want to get a girlfriend and they're being defensive about it by insulting women. It's just a weird bipolar thing that's going on with them. And then there's simps who just throw all their money out to attractive looking girls, right? Both sides are just really, really bad. But here's the thing though. Incels and simps, they're not as prevalent as you think they are. They really are not. I know, Pokimane. There's a video game live streamer out there called Pokimane, and another one called OK Boomer Girl, Nika Lowell. She's got people watching her stuff. They got people donating to her. We got people saying the most weirdest stuff about her. But for the most part, it's a joke. It's a joke, really. Is she getting money from this stuff? Kinda, yeah. OnlyFans, yeah. Definitely. There are definitely people out there who throw money at attractive looking girls, or they go say misogynistic stuff towards girls, or have really weird viewpoints on the male and female relationship. It exists, but I genuinely believe that it's not as prevalent as people make it out to be, especially in the world of mixed martial arts, where a lot of dudes who watch mixed martial arts, with my friends, a lot of us are already taken. A lot of us are already taken, and for those who are not taken, the ones who we find most attractive are the Rose Namajunas. To be honest with you, the really cool looking girl who can beat you up. That's cool. And here's the truth. Here's a guy thing for all the female viewers out there. Us guys prefer cool any day of the week than somebody who's just hot. That really is it. Our dream, most dudes, dream girl pretty much is hey, you want to watch football with me and then play video games? Yeah. That's really it. I would love to meet somebody who's, because here's the thing, I follow a lot of NBA sports a lot. I still to this day, would love to see just a female NBA YouTuber who actually is a huge basketball statistics nerd. Because if you go online, like if you look at NBA YouTubers, or even like NFL like YouTubers, a lot of them are all stat nerds who are full on like advanced like metrics and stuff, or in like player development. There's a really geeky, dorky, nerdy side to sports, and like Joe Rogan, that dude's a total nerdy dork as it pertains to mixed martial arts. Like, he's like over analyzing stuff, he's bringing up numbers and all that stuff. So yeah, incels and simps do watch mixed martial arts, and there are an audience out there that are into the Paige Van Zants and the Michelle Watersons of the world. But they're a small minority. I think there's a small minority out there that are into mixed martial arts just because they're hot. I really believe that. Someone says, maybe she'll get a gig on Dancing with the Stars, obviously referencing Paige Van Zant. Use what you have, hot girls, get ahead. If she can end up being a good fighter, it helps her in the long run. Yeah, like, there's nothing, I don't get this problem. It's like, you can't be a cool, tough as nails fighter and be attractive at the same time. It's like, apparently impossible to do, according to some people, which I find it so weird. Because she mentioned, the commentator here mentions about her saying, well, she's not doing anything appropriate on Instagram, she's dancing. The commentator says, you're doing it because we like to see that, and more people flock to her Instagram, the better. She gets bigger followings. Hopefully for her, it turns into people paying attention to her for her fighting career, and then when it's contract time, she can go show her following and people watching her and get more money. Also, like Paige Van Zant, you can use that to do other things, maybe acting, modeling, sponsoring, etc. I'm all for people getting more opportunities to make money. Especially in the world of mixed martial arts, where I've countlessly said all the time, making money in MMA is really difficult. Really difficult, especially, I know I always mention this all the time about my friends. I got friends who, in their mid-20s, already got a house. They got a house, they're happily married, and they're making, I got one friend who's 27 years old, makes $300,000 a year. $300,000 a year! At the age of 27, I got one friend right now who's making $97,000 per year right now, sitting her butt in a chair, being a computer engineer. And she's just starting off. And so, after like a year or two, she's probably gonna bump herself up to $115,000. $115,000! To sit her butt in a chair, and like, let's look at a computer screen. Which I technically kinda do for my own job, but still. And so, I'm always happy knowing that an MMA fighter is opening him or herself up to other avenues to go make money. So if Paige Van Zant has said herself that she makes a lot more money doing modeling and doing sponsorship deals through Instagram than she ever did fighting for the UFC. And we all gotta feed ourselves. We gotta feed ourselves. We gotta feed our family members. We gotta feed the ones who we love. You gotta do what you can to go survive out there in the world, and putting yourself in a situation where you can get some good monetary gain without really selling yourself out there, and you're doing it in a way that's not like completely disingenuous. It's fine. It's really fine. Like, it's hard for me to say, hey, Loretta, don't go and, put a hot picture of yourself out there on Instagram, because it's gonna attract some like weird dudes out there, if it will lead to her getting an opportunity to get on a TV show. And for all I know, it could be her dream. It could be like her dream to like be an actor one day. And I don't want to be the one who'll be like, no, you can't live your dream of being an actor because you just so happen to be really attractive looking. Man, that's really wrong. That's really, really wrong. You shouldn't police people for doing that, ever. Someone says, I freely admit that I don't get social media and have no desire to post pics or videos of myself anywhere ever. With that being said, how do you say I don't do it for social media after you post videos on social media? Maybe there's some nuance I'm missing here. Help me out, young people. Regardless, she can dress however she wants and post whatever she wants. I believe fighters should be employed based largely on their fighting skills. I believe fighters should be employed based on a combination of fighting skills and the potential to appeal to a large audience. But I don't have any reason to think that she's not at least a Bellator caliber fighter. She definitely does. She definitely does. One people here says, do you dress nice when you go out so people will think you look good or attractive? Same thing, but you can have millions of people think you look good instead of just the people at the bar, restaurant, club, church, whatever social event you're at. And then everyone is looking into looking good and the attention it brings. But a lot of people are and have been ever since man began walking upright. I don't ever post on social media, but my wife does and get it. She feels like she looks good sometimes and wants to show off, which in turn makes her feel good about herself. Yeah. I got a friend right now, depressed. Like, no, I don't know if he currently is depressed, but he was very manic depressive at some points in his life. And he pointed towards Instagram and social media and posting images of himself. He's one of those guys who, we all know this person. Someone who looks incredibly good, like without a shirt. Like if he takes off his shirt, he's got like a total 8-pack. But then if you talk to the guy, kind of like Luke Rockhold, we're like, you look good, but oh my goodness, like you're just a miserable person to be around with because you have such low self-esteem and such a low negative energy about yourself. But then like he posts images of himself like on Facebook and Instagram, and that gives him like this momentary boost of like feeling good about himself. So he's not like crying all the time. It's not just my friend. There are many cases of people like this that they just have low self-esteem issues, and if they post something online and they see the number go up and they see a lot of people giving likes or a lot of comments, it boosts up their self-esteem. It really is. And I'll be honest with you, whenever you do go, there's a reason why none of us ever go out with like wearing the worst shirt possible. I have so I used to do a lot of cosplaying, so I have like a wizard robe in my closet. I have a giant, very heavy wizard robe, and I got myself like these ugly looking like shorts that my mom bought me as like a prank that has like an inappropriate image on it. I could wear that, but there's no way I'm ever gonna wear that because then I'll look bad. I don't want to go to a Denny's or a restaurant or even play basketball. Here's the thing. I don't want to go anywhere feeling like I look out of place or people are going to judge the heck out of me very negatively. That's why I dress nice. I can wear my very baggy, very ugly looking basketball shorts, or I can go wear my good looking black Puma joggers. I can wear that on top of a really good looking top instead of my wizard robe. And yeah, like, it just feels good. It just feels really good, looking good when you're going outside. And for Instagram and so for social media, it's the same thing, really. Now, do I believe she's doing it? She says she's not doing it for social media. I believe she's doing it to get more followers. Okay, I believe, here's a... I believe Loretta is posting hot images of herself because A, she wants to look good, B, she's really proud of her body, and C, to go get more people to go follow her, which she can use to negotiate in her way into buying in for bigger fights down the line in her career. Look at Paige VanZant. Paige VanZant was main eventing, co-main eventing fights despite her like really mediocre win-loss record. And the reason why she could do that, because she can negotiate her way into going in and getting title fight, and she can negotiate her way into telling the match bookers, hey, look at my followers, look at my count, I can go bring eyes into the product. Like, you'll make money, I'll make money, we all win. And it's aspects like that is the reason why I can't really be all that upset with Loretta, or be like turned off by Loretta like posting a hot image of herself. I really can't. Because it's a win-win situation for everyone. And if she herself is willing to do that, and is open for her to do that, in order to go make money, and that's her main goal, then good for her. Good for her to do that. I'm all for you posting anything you want on your social media. Just be responsible with what you post. Be responsible. Promote positivity. Don't be disingenuous. Be authentic. Just be yourself out there. And if people like you, they will like you. And that does it for today's Hot Topics. You have been a great audience. All I gotta say is thank you. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask that please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Women's Mixed Martial Arts Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.